November 1st, All Saints' Day, Castle Church, surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, two of the greatest, Martin Luther, Philip Melanchthon. Does it get any better than this? The cloud eternal, and by the way, I say it again, the cloud. It's our cloud. Microsoft owes us royalty payments. The cloud, eternal. But also the living cloud of witnesses as we all are gathered here to be a part of this great event from around the world to celebrate this heritage and this hope. I'm going to just get a feel, I want us to get a feel for where we are around the world in this cloud and where it is. So I'm going to say, the first time I'm going to say, and all God's people said, and then you're going to say the name of the country that you're from. Then I'm going to say it again, and all God's people said, and then you say the name that is above all name and the name that draws us here. And let's experience the universal and the particular at one time. Are you ready? First time, where you're from, the nation you're from. And all God's people said, and all God's people said, Jesus. Can we say it again? Jesus. One more time. And all God's people said, Jesus. And that is the name for which we come and by which we leave, the name of Jesus. And this is the name that was so important to Martin Luther. Here is a theologian, a monk that had a quiet life, and then one day, 1517, he could take it no more. Now, what he could take no more, let's get clear, was not just the idea of indulgences. He didn't like indulgences, but what was so offensive to him and what triggered this incredible event that took place, the posting, he nailed it and he mailed it both on the 31st, but they gathered to talk about it today, which is why we're gathering today. But what precipitated this was not just he had it with indulgences. I mean, there have been indulgences for centuries. It was one thing in particular. The guy who was preaching indulgences, his name was, anybody remember? Johann Tetzel. And Tetzel was a preacher who was a great preacher. Kind of the Ken Ulmer of the Catholic Church of his day. And the Pope said to Tetzel, "You're such a great preacher, I want you to preach indulgences. I want you to go, and I need money to finish my St. Peter's here, and I'll give you a certain cut of all the money you raise, but you go out there and you preach." And this is the problem. See, it wasn't just that, and Tetzel was good at saying, as soon as a coin in the coffer rings, the soul into heaven springs. We're not sure he ever said that, actually, but he probably did. But what Luther found so offensive is that he was having these altar calls for indulgences. It wasn't an altar call for Jesus, for the gospel. And that's what ticked Luther off. It wasn't so much the indulgences. It was that Tetzel was so good at what he did that he was converting people to the wrong thing. And so Luther mailed, the German word is posted, these 95 theses because he had had enough. It was not about anything other than what? Jesus. In fact, the heart of the 95 Theses is number 62, that says that the right and true treasure of the church is the gospel of the glory and grace of God. And so here we are today. Now I want to say one more thing about what Luther did here. 1517, posted the 95 Theses, and the world changed. Overnight, there is huge foment, and everything is changing. Tetzel himself gets turned on by everyone. When things get really bad, and this is about 1518, the Catholic Church decides we got to try and see if we can make peace with Luther and bring him on our side. So they thought by what they could do to kind of make peace with Luther is to attack Tetzel. So Tetzel got attacked by his own people. So the Protestants are hating him and despising him, and the Catholics are hating him and despising him because of all this trouble that he caused because he was so good at preaching, and Tetzel's health broke. Tetzel died in 1519, 2 years after Luther posted his 95 Theses. And when Luther heard that Tetzel was on his deathbed in Leipzig, Luther sent him a note. Amazing. Just think about this. Luther, always the pastor, sent Tetzel a note saying that he was praying for him, that he was remembering him in his thoughts, and to console himself with the knowledge that this movement had another father than him, that he should not feel and take responsibility for this massive split in the church that was happening because it had another father. And he ushered him into eternity with his prayers and thoughts. An amazing moment. Would that we extended the same kind of courtesy and compassion to all of our enemies. And so, here we are. By 1527, Luther was unhappy. He was unhappy at the way the Reformation was going, and he found that some of the people that were actually sitting at his table, and some of us actually went to his room where his table talk was, and Katie had to serve 40 people a day at that table. She did the cooking and just served 40 people a day at that table, and all people from around the world came and they plotted the Reformation. And Luther was very upset, unhappy, and thought that some of his people that were in this movement were taking the Reformation in wrong directions. And so, to deal with that anniversary, a 10th anniversary, he wrote a hymn. Now, Luther wrote 36 hymns, at least. But this hymn was written for the 36th, to deal with the 10th anniversary of this Reformation that he felt was going not the way he intended. And you know the hymn by name. It was, in many ways, the battle hymn of the Reformation. It was the marching song. And it was, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." A hymn to try and correct the course. And so when Martin Luther himself, as we will be singing later, is talking about to know this world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, we need to know that he's also talking about the devils within his own midst. Because one of Luther's other favorite quotes says, "Where God builds a church, the devil builds a chapel." So this song that Luther wrote, and he wrote, most likely scholars today say he wrote the music for it too. We first thought it was a bar tune, but now they say no, Luther wrote the music himself that we're gonna hear. This is a song to deal with the problems that the Reformation, even in its early days, began to have. And so we're here today to talk about a new Reformation. And as we think about a new Reformation, let me suggest to you that the seeds of it are in the past, in the words that we've already heard highlighted, that in many ways began this modern world. Now, scholars are debating, was Luther medieval or modern? Of course he was medieval, but he helped to point the way towards a whole modern world. And those three words were, you all know them, what are they? Here I stand. Now, words are important. I want you to hear me. Words are important. General Douglas MacArthur said, I shall, he didn't say see you later. Martin Luther King said, I have he didn't say, it seems to me. Martin Luther King didn't say, I got an idea. No. I have a dream, and here we have these three words in many ways built the modern world. Here, the last 500 years have been heavily about the present, existential, tillix, eternal now, all about the moment, the here and now. The modern world, invented individualism. You do not have the concept of me in here and you out there until modernity and the printing press. The printing press invented the individual, the most antisocial technology ever invented, the printing press, by yourself. And then the third word, stand. The modern world, all about propositions and points and principles, started out with 95 of them. Now I want to suggest, as we think about moving forward from here, that this next Reformation is going to be built on some different words. And let me suggest one starting place. It's not here, it's there. The primary time zone is not the past, as it was in the medieval, and not the present, as the modern. It is all about the future becoming present out of the past. It's not I, it's we. We've taken individualism too far. We've taken it to narcissism. Now there's even further into solipsism. No, it's not here I, it's there we. And let me tell you that third word, stand. We've been standing too long. It's time to go. Take a hike, church. Go. So maybe this next Reformation could start off with some new words. As Luther stood and said, here I stand, maybe as you go back, you ought to hear ringing in your ears, there we go.